issues that make news. Only on Rajya Sabha television.
An eye on global politics.
They don't want Syria to become another Libya.
Big moves. Victories. Defeats. Scandals.
They want Iran to be isolated in the international community.
Presenting international events in perspective.
President Obama's report on the economic front is pretty high.
Every week, catch it all on World Panorama.
Hello and welcome to State of the Economy, a show that connects you with the prominent policymakers and thinkers.
Basically begin to focus on democratization of information.
Is doing a better job on the revenue front. Trust begets trust, and you have to do it step by step, brick by brick.
Economy is something which cannot grow with a non-functional government.
But now again, apparently real estate prices are booming because that's where a lot of money laundering is taking place.
Aadhaar becomes a financial address.
State of the economy. Only on Rajya Sabha television.
The Nehru Trophy boat race of Kerala, popularly called Vallam Kali in local parlance. This historic boat race dates back to 1952 when Pandit Nehru visited the state and a pageantry of boats accompanied him from Kottayam to Alappuzha. The race, conducted on the second Saturday of August every year, is a major tourist attraction. It's generally the snake boats which participate in the race, and hence the shape of the winner's trophy is also a replica of a snake boat.
Social networking sites play an important role in the life of young people.
I think social media is the best way to express our views.
But what do they think about the impact of these sites on their personal life?
There need to be a certain kind of respect of what we write and for whom we are writing. Truth never comes sugar-coated.
And whether communication on social networking sites need to be regulated.
I don't think that it should be regulated or something like that. I think that it should be regulated. Watch Campus Debate.
From the IIS University in Jaipur.
Only on Rajya Sabha television.
Every big issue. We are also concerned about the price rise.
Every big debate.
You have elements on both sides who are not for peace, they have a vested interest in conflict.
And now this team has succeeded in desensitizing people about corruption.
All the big names and all of their views.
Absurd to be against subsidies.
Having attempted to do them itself was an act of corruption or lack of integrity.
Rising above petty, personal, hidden agendas, we get you
The big picture. Weeknights.
only on Rajya Sabha television.
India and Vietnam have shared long and friendly relationship from decades. The bond between India and Vietnam is not only limited to its leaders. People on both sides are equally warm towards each other. Watch special report on India-Vietnam relations only on Rajya Sabha television.
नमस्कार, स्वागत है आपका राज्यसभा टेलीविजन पर। मैं हूं आरफा खानम शेरवानी और इस खास हिस्से में हम बात करेंगे, जो बजट है उसकी डिटेल्स में जाएंगे। हम आपको बताने की कोशिश करेंगे कि जो बजट के अलग अलग हिस्से हैं, जो अलग अलग सेक्टर्स हैं, उनको किस तरह से बजट मिला है और पिछले बार के मुकाबले कितना बेहतर या बदतर है। हम खासकर एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर, रूरल डेवलपमेंट और फूड सिक्योरिटी का जिक्र करेंगे।
Okay, Chetan, it's very interesting. The minister talks about providing 10,000 crores for food security, hoping that the food security bill will be passed, and then he has set aside 10,000 crores. You think, but there are people who say that this may not be enough, but the crucial question is whether the bill is going to be passed in this.
See, firstly, it's certainly not going to be enough. Yes. That's for sure. And I see no reason why it's going to be passed this time vis-a-vis last time. There's nothing that's tangible that tells me. Let me just explain the criticality of it when you're talking about agriculture as a sector. It contributes about 14% of our GDP, yet 70% of our populi depend on it, directly or indirectly. Yes. That's a very critical thing. Now, for an economy that's anyway fledgling at some stage, for a government that talks about inclusive growth, which means employment generation is critical. And when you have 70% of the people subsisting on agriculture, the only way to go about it is to boost agriculture. There's no doubt about that. And this is going to be the only way you can provide a fillip to the economy for the next phase.
चेतन,
इसके अलावा गिरीश, हमारे पास कई और खास मेहमान मौजूद हैं। पिनाकी चक्रवर्ती यहाँ पर स्टूडियो मौजूद हैं, प्रोफेसर पिनाकी चक्रवर्ती जो कि NIPFP से जुड़े हुए हैं, और इसके अलावा विराज पटनायक हैं जो प्रिंसिपल एडवाइजर हैं ऑफिस ऑफ द कमिश्नर्स टू सुप्रीम कोर्ट। पिनाकी चक्रवर्ती, आपसे मैं समझना चाहती हूँ, हम जिक्र कर रहे हैं यहाँ पर फूड सिक्योरिटी बिल का। पहले तो यही, जैसे गिरीश ने जिक्र किया कि क्या वाकई ये एक रियलिटी बनेगा, एक हकीकत बनेगा या नहीं बनेगा, लेकिन क्या गवर्नमेंट इस बात की उम्मीद कर रही है कि पिछले NREG जिस तरह से स्कीम रही और जो फ्लैगशिप प्रोग्राम्स रहे हैं उसकी तरह आगे फूड सिक्योरिटी बिल को भी भुना सकेगी चुनाव में?
I think it is important to understand the development perspective. If we don't talk about food security bill for a moment, if we look at government's approach towards fiscal policy has been right-based approach to development in the last couple of years. Right. That happens because of globalization, because globalization entails a lot of shocks. So you have right to employment, you have right to education, now you are talking about right to food security bill. And as an economy, which of course is in downturn, I understand that once when and what will be the content of the food security bill is the time only would tell. I think money should not be a problem in terms of allocating resources for ensuring food security. I think that is not an issue. But given that this is the last full-fledged budget before the election, the question that you have asked and I'm trying to answer is that they would try to have the food security bill. But if we are really wanting to ensure assured food to the people who need food, I think it is very important the food security bill is very strong. And second issue is there is a lot of distrust between the center and the states. And unless those distrusts are taken on board and states are given a comfort zone, because this has implications for state spending. Same thing is happening with the GST, because it has not moved forward because there are problems between center and state. So being a federal country, and these federal issues will have to be solved so that we get the food security bill as early as possible. But I would definitely not prefer a very loose bill because of the election and doesn't ensure food.
इस वक्त हमारे साथ विराज पटनायक भी जुड़ गए हैं। विराज पटनायक, आपने काफी बारीकी से काम किया है। विराज पटनायक, आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है? नहीं, ऑफ कर देंगे ना जब आएगा। विराज पटनायक से हम बातचीत करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। उन्होंने काफी बारीकी से फूड सिक्योरिटी बिल को देखा है और उस पर काम किया है। विराज पटनायक, आप मेरी आवाज सुन सकते हैं? ये सवाल फिर से पूछ लेते हैं, पिनाकी चक्रवर्ती साहब से पूछ लेते हैं कि ये बताइए कि जिस तरह से माना जा रहा है कि 10,000 करोड़ जो है वो जितनी बड़ी स्कीम है, जितनी एम्बिशियस, जितनी महत्वाकांक्षी स्कीम है, उसके मुकाबले बहुत कम पैसा है, तो क्या सरकार वाकई अगर ये अमल में आता है और इतना पैसा लगाती भी है तो ऊंट के मुंह में जीरा जैसा लगेगा?
This is not the only money that they are going to allocate. This is a token allocation, the 10,000 crores. So if you take the food security, food subsidy bill of 90,000 crore, I think there will be pruning of that. So वो भी घट जाएगा once you have a food security bill. तो इसीलिए allocation I am not too worried about whether this 10,000 crore is enough or not. But what is more worrying factor is what would be the content of that food security? Because some of the questions that the states have raised are very valid. Then there is this question of selectivity versus universality of PDS. And there are certain states where the PDS is working very well. So how do you revamp PDS in the context of a food security bill? These issues, and where it doesn't work, how do you make that? That's why I'm talking about that there has to be a federal approach towards this before it gets passed, instead of targeting the election to pass it.
Mr. Chakrabarti, one of the key issues in food security is the targeting. Is who are the people who will come under that? There is a big problem still there as far as Aadhaar is concerned. Whether it's going to be Aadhaar based, but still there is a problem between, you know, the finance minister today spoke about extending the scheme to the entire country in the by the end by 2014. That's before the elections. So you see a problem there as far as the kind of targeting. Chetan, both of you, I want both of you to react to it.
I think definitely it is a monumental problem, because there is a problem of inclusion. That means those who don't deserve gets these benefits, and there is a problem of exclusion.
Yes.
Those who deserve, they don't get the benefits. Now, if we have to get this exclusion error out, I think the technology can really help to a great extent. But the question here is, can Aadhaar cover universally everybody till the food security in the next 6, 7, 8 months? So that is a real issue, and the Aadhaar coverage also differs across states.
Yes.
So in such a situation, we will have serious issues.
That's a very important point. I think the criticality is not about the people who are included, who should not have been included. It's the people who are excluded, who should be included.
Absolutely.
Because that really is the critical factor.
And the entire focus is on the Aadhaar scheme and how this whole thing will work, how they will be able to bring all these people on Aadhaar, and there are a lot of question marks on Aadhaar itself.
See, you know, this center state thing is a classic example, is what Pinaki was saying, of a federal structure. And, you know, it is there. We can't avoid it. It is a devil, if that's what you want to accept it as. The point is, how do you work around it? There are various other countries that show you the way. Right. There is ways of how we can work it. Now, one way what you can actually do is, when, you know, you try and streamline it in a manner that is bottom to top rather than top to bottom. And so the problems have to come from the bottom, and then they have to be solved at the top. It cannot happen on the reverse. That's really what's going on. And very correctly is what Pinaki was saying, the GST has the same issue. Yes. Right? It's a question of how much to give and how much to take. It's a negotiation pattern. And it's been going on for years.
NCTC has the same issue.
Yeah. So once you have to come to some conclusion somewhere, move forward, and then start aligning yourself. It doesn't mean you delay the entire process.
लेकिन प्रोफेसर चक्रवर्ती, जिस तरह से सरकार के अलग-अलग धड़े हैं, जो अलग-अलग कमेटीज हैं, उनमें एक राय नहीं थी फूड सिक्योरिटी को लेकर, तो अब इस एलोकेशन का मतलब क्या ये है कि एक कंसेंसस बिल्डिंग हो गई है?
I think so. I think if you look at the food security bill debate, I think debate is now what should be the content of the food security bill. Nobody is talking about whether it should be there or not. So that way, I don't think we have come out of that, and I think it will come. And at the same time, I would also like to emphasize on the fact that if we are talking about ensuring food security, a lot of states, I think, as you said, the issue of from the bottom to up, basically we are talking about decentralization. Yes. If we look at some of the experiences of absorption of food subsidies, states like, very poor states like Chhattisgarh, fantastic. If we look at Kerala, fantastic. If you look at some of the other upcoming states, even the offtake has been going up. That means PDS is working in some states, and somewhere it is not working. Now, assured food grain, if we are planning to give to the people with a stability and certainty, how will you give it? We have a parallel system of cash transfers. So will cash transfer be integrated with the food subsidy bill? I am not too sure.
The other thing is, which is very pertinent, is that we are not looking at the total picture of food in this country. I mean, 50% of this food is lost. Either it's lost because of wastage or pilferage.
In fact, the finance minister spoke about it. Right. He mentioned about it. He said he has come out with a scheme for, for godowns. A very interesting scheme talking about godowns for panchayats will be asked.
If you have that, perhaps you may not require the intensity of the food security bill, and that will be a solution within itself. You don't have to allocate funds for that if food is available to be given at the end of it all.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point on the food subsidy. I think the food subsidy, though we talk about food subsidy targeted for the poor, food subsidy is essentially a production subsidy.
Sure.
So it is the big farmers who are benefiting out of those food subsidy.
Anyway, that is a debate which has been going on in this country. But one good thing, one good message from today's budget is about the food grain production in the country having touched 250 million tons. Yes, sir.
जी हाँ, और इसके अलावा अगर एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर की बात कर लें हम, तो चेतन 22% का इजाफा हुआ है इस बार एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर में. आपको लगता है ये कोई अच्छी खबर है या फिर 22?
खबर तो अच्छी है. जब इजाफा होता है तो अच्छी खबर होती है. खबर में तो कोई खराबी नहीं है. लेकिन जिस मूल रूप से, जैसे मैंने शुरुआत में बोला कि जिस देश में 2/3 से ज्यादा लोग जो हैं आप कृषि क्षेत्र में निर्भर हैं और पूरे के विकास दर में केवल एक छठा हिस्सा जो है इससे आता है, तो वो आपको खुद ब खुद बताता है कि कहीं ना कहीं जो जाके इस देश में गड़बड़ी है। अब आपको इस देश ने सेवा क्षेत्र ने बचाया है, सर्विस क्षेत्र, लेकिन एक सीमा है जहां तक वो बचा सकता है। दूसरा, सेवा क्षेत्र जो है वो बाहर पे काफी हद तक निर्भर है। बाहर की परिस्थिति अच्छी नहीं है। आपको इस वक्त जो है तो विकास अपने घर से ही आपको बढ़ाना है, और घर से बढ़ाने का एक सबसे बड़ा तरीका है।
Chetan, we are joined by Biraj Patnaik, who is the special advisor to the Supreme Court Commissioners and Right to Food. Biraj, yesterday we were discussing about this aspect of right to food, and the finance minister has spoken about it. He hopes that the bill is going to be passed in this session, and he has allocated 10,000 crores aside for it.
10,000 crores.
Yes, 10,000 crores. So what's your take on this now?
Well, I think
the
good news is that he has announced the fact that the bill will be brought on.
Yes.
But the bad news is that 10,000 crores will not even cover the 67% with 25 kilos that has been promised in the original bill. So I really don't know what this announcement means. I think this was just to indicate to the UPA chairperson and to the Congress party that government is serious about this bill. But if they are going to pass a bill that is going to cover even what they have promised, which many activists and other people say is very minimalist, 10,000 crores is not enough. You need at least 27,000 crores.
Yes.
But what worries me, Girish, so far as the food subsidy is concerned, the other elements of the food subsidy, which is the midday meal program and ICDS.
Right.
If you look at the allocations for them, in real terms, contrary to what the finance minister said in his speech, in real terms they are far less. Now if you take the example of the ICDS, he has announced a budget of 17,700 crores,
yes,
which is a 11% increase from last year, and it looks like it's very reasonable. But if you look at the 12th plan, the ICDS has been restructured, and the total allocation in the 12th plan is 1,23,000 crores spread over the next 5 years.
Yes.
Which means that the current year's budget should have been at least 24,600 crores. As against that, you have only 17,700 crores.
Right.
So therefore, and with every scheme I can analyze what is happening is that what you're giving as subsidy is barely covering for inflation. I understand the fiscal situation is very tight, but then the government shouldn't say that they've been increased the budget.
But there is also, Biraj, there is also this promise of the finance minister that, as far as social sector schemes are concerned, the flagship schemes are concerned, there'll be funds will not be a problem. Let's see how whether the finance minister will be able to walk the talk, and there are other issues also involved, but I think we need to.
जी अग्निश्वर, इस दौरान नतीजे भी आ गए हैं। जो 3 उत्तर पूर्व के राज्यों में चुनाव हुए थे उनके नतीजे आज आने थे, और मेघालय, त्रिपुरा, नागालैंड के नतीजे अपनी स्क्रीन पर आप देख पाएंगे। अभी कुछ ही पलों में हम ग्राफिक्स के जरिए आपको दिखाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। इन तीनों राज्यों में महत्वपूर्ण चुनाव जो हुए उनके नतीजे आज आए हैं। अगर मेघालय का हम जिक्र करें तो कांग्रेस पार्टी को जो है वो अब तक 30 सीटें हासिल हुई हैं। इसके अलावा HSPDP को 4, UDP को 8 और अन्य दलों को 17 सीटें हासिल हुई हैं। जी हाँ, और अगले नतीजे मेघालय और के नतीजे आपने देखे हैं। नागालैंड और त्रिपुरा के नतीजे आपको दिखाएंगे कुछ ही पलों में। अलग अलग पार्टियां, भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने भी यहाँ पर एक सीट ली है, लेकिन अभी नागालैंड का फिलहाल जिक्र कर लेते हैं। त्रिपुरा का हम जिक्र करते हैं फिलहाल। CPIM ने यहाँ पर 49 सीटें हासिल की हैं, CPI ने 1 और इंडियन नेशनल कांग्रेस पार्टी ने 10 सीटें यहाँ पर हासिल की हैं। अन्य जो दल हैं उनको एक भी सीट हासिल नहीं हुई है। 60 नतीजे पूरे 60 सीटों के आ चुके हैं। जी हाँ, और नागालैंड का अब जिक्र कर लेते हैं। NPF को यहाँ पर 38 सीटें, NCP को 4, कांग्रेस पार्टी को 8 सीटें मिली हैं और अन्य दलों को 9 सीटें हासिल हुई हैं। 60 में से 59 सीटों के नतीजे हमारे सामने हैं। CPM के महासचिव प्रकाश करात का इस मुद्दे पे क्या कहना है, आइए देख लेते हैं।
The people of Tripura have given a historic verdict. They have returned the left front for the 5th successive term in government. And this is a victory which shows that the left front has actually improved its tally to 50 out of the total 60 seats. This is a resounding endorsement of the performance and policies of the left-front government headed by Manik Sarkar, and the 7th left-front government, which will be formed now, will carry on the good work.
बात सीधा है कि जनता के लिए फायदा हुआ या नहीं इस सरकार के होने की वजह से, और वो फायदा जो किया उसका नतीजा जो है चुनाव में नजर आ रहा है।
जी हाँ, विराज पटनायक हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं जिनसे अभी सवाल जवाब का सिलसिला चल रहा था। विराज, आपसे मैं समझना चाहती हूँ, एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर की हम बात कर रहे हैं। चेतन ने कहा कि जाहिर है ज्यादा पैसा मिला है तो ये खुशी की बात ही है, लेकिन जो पॉलिसी है गवर्नमेंट की, जो विजन है एग्रीकल्चर को लेकर, हमने देखा है पिछले सालों में जिस तरह से किसानों ने आत्महत्याएं की हैं। क्या इस बजट में कोई ऐसा विजन नजर आया, कोई ऐसी चीज नजर आई जिससे हमें लगे कि किसानों को कोई राहत होगी आने वाले सालों में?
देखिए, इसमें दो चीजें हुई हैं। एक तो जो फार्मर्स प्रोड्यूसर्स ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, कोऑपरेटिव्स हैं, उनके लिए बजट में एलोकेशन हुआ है लोन्स का, कि अगर आप फार्मर्स प्रोड्यूसर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, यू विल बी ट्रीटेड ऑन पार। एपीएमसी एक्ट अगर कोई स्टेट अपना रिफॉर्म करती है तो 10 लाख रुपए तक की सॉफ्ट लोन जो है वो फार्मर्स प्रोड्यूसर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को मिल सकता है। लेकिन सवाल यह है कि 80% भारत के जो किसान हैं उनकी लैंड होल्डिंग 2% से कम है, तो उन किसानों के लिए शायद इस बजट में कुछ नहीं है, क्योंकि जो फार्मर्स ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, प्रोड्यूसर ग्रुप्स हैं, वो अधिकतर मिडिल और लार्ज फार्मर्स के लिए। पहली बात ये। दूसरी बात, फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर ने जिक्र किया कि ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन हम लोग जो पूर्व के राज्य हैं, ईस्टर्न स्टेट्स हैं, उड़ीसा, छत्तीसगढ़, वहां पे कर रहे हैं। लेकिन उसका अगर आज तक आप अनुभव देखें, सही है कि यूटिलाइजेशन 100% हुआ है, लेकिन वो इसलिए हुआ है क्योंकि बजट ही इतना कम था। पिछले बजट में 300 करोड़ था, जो 50,000 रुपए एक गांव का 50,000 रुपए का बजट था लास्ट ईयर, अब उसको बढ़ा के इन्होंने 1,000 करोड़ कर दिया है।
ओके, विराज,
दैट इज नॉट अ सिग्निफिकेंट चेंज।
Viraj will come back to you. We are joined now by Jai Panda, the BJD MP from Orissa. Mr. Panda, can you hear us? Mr. Panda?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, Mr. Panda, one of the
yes,
things
I can hear you.
One of the things which even Viraj just now mentioned is about the green revolution, which is the eastern side. The finance minister spoke about it. He's very happy with the way things are happening in the eastern one. He even took the state of Orissa also. Do you think that as far as the agriculture sector is concerned, the finance minister has been able to lay a path for future growth?
Actually, on this particular issue, I think Viraj has hit the nail on the head, because he said the allocation is such a pittance that it doesn't serve the purpose. 1,000 crores for all the eastern region states, which have actually been doing quite well on agriculture, is just a drop in the ocean. So that doesn't, as far as states like Odisha are concerned, there's been quite a bit of disappointment. If you're talking about the farming sector, please note that the entire budget did not use the word irrigation at all.
Yes.
I would have expected that any emphasis on the farming sector would have allocated funds for the infrastructure necessary in the sector, particularly on irrigation.
Right.
And similarly, if you look at the infrastructure that actually does help rural India, which is PMGSY, for instance,
yes,
the funds remain the same as before. But so you could argue that the finance minister has had many constraints, and he's been working within those constraints.
As far as PMGSY is concerned, Mr. Panda, he made it very clear that those states which have still not utilized the funds for the first stage, they'll be given the same funds. But for those states which have utilized the funds, he spoke about PMGSY 2. So there is some kind of a progress there. It all depends on the states how much they've been able to utilize.
Yes, but you must keep in mind that for several years in between, the PMGSY funds were completely constrained. So a lot of projects got stranded over the last 3 years or so, which has only been revived since last year.
Okay.
But look, let me not make an entirely negative picture of the budget.
Right.
I would welcome, I think the biggest thing that this budget points out is that the finance minister on the floor of the Lok Sabha has accepted the conditions that the state finance ministers have been laying down for the introduction of GST.
Right.
And specifically, he has put aside 9,000 crores for that.
Yes.
And he has openly today supported the idea of the amendments in law necessary to make that happen. Now, this is something we have been saying for almost 2 years, and the central government has been slow to accept. So finally accepting that is a very big thing. But I must reiterate that states like Odisha feel very, very left out. For example, there's a backward regions grant fund. The amount has not changed since last year. The KBK districts, which are the very epitome of deprivation in India, continue to get the same paltry amounts for their development.
ईस्ट इंडिया के लिए 1000 करोड़ जय पांडा मानते हैं कि बहुत कम है और उनके मुंह में जीरे के समान है। जय पांडा जी वापस लौटेंगे आपकी तरफ, लेकिन नीलोत्पल बसु सीपीएम के नेता इस वक्त हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं। फूड सिक्योरिटी बिल पे हम बात करना चाहते हैं। नीलोत्पल जी बताइए कि फिलहाल जिस तरह से इसको लेकर एक असमंजस था, ये क्या वाकई यूपीए 2 अपने कार्यकाल के आखिर तक फूड सिक्योरिटी को ला पाएगी या नहीं? कम से कम इसके आसार तो नजर आ रहे हैं। बजट तक सामने ला दिया गया है, हालांकि बजट लोग मान रहे हैं कि उतना नहीं है जितनी की उम्मीद थी, लेकिन कम से कम सरकार की मंशा तो है।
देखिए, सरकार जिस रूप में फूड सिक्योरिटी के बारे में बजट के अंदर प्रावधान रखा है, उससे ये सवाल जरूर खड़ा होता है कि सरकार इसके बारे में उनका लगन कितना है, क्योंकि उन्होंने बोला है हम अतिरिक्त 10,000 करोड़ इसके लिए अलग करके रखते हैं, लेकिन उन्होंने एक्चुअली जो फूड सब्सिडी था पिछले बजट में उससे 10,000 करोड़ घटा दिया, 5,000 करोड़ घटा दिया, तो सिर्फ अतिरिक्त एलोकेशन 5,000 करोड़ का हुआ है। और अगर आप मुद्रास्फीति का जो वास्तविकता वो अगर मद्देनजर रखे तो आपको पता चलेगा कि फूड के ऊपर सब्सिडी घटा है कुल मिला के रियल टर्म्स में। तो इसीलिए एक तो कवरेज ही है नहीं, दूसरा है कि इनका सारा दारोमदार ये डायरेक्ट कैश ट्रांसफर के ऊपर है। इन्होंने साफ तौर पे घोषणा कर दिया कि फूड और दूसरे चीज भी आने वाले दिनों में ये इसके अंदर लाएंगे डायरेक्ट कैश ट्रांसफर के अंदर, जबकि हम जानते हैं बैंकिंग लिंकेज है, जबकि हम जानते हैं सीमा को सही तरह से उन्होंने परिभाषित नहीं कर पाया
अभी तक ये पता नहीं है कि गरीब कौन है। नीलोत्पल जी एक और चीज पर आपका ध्यान दिलाना चाहती हूँ मैं। रूरल डेवलपमेंट मिनिस्ट्री का जो फंड है, जो जितना उनको एलोकेट किया गया है 80,000 करोड़ है। हम जानते हैं कि राहुल गांधी की खास जो है वो ध्यान रहता है उनका इस मिनिस्ट्री पर, सोशल वेलफेयर का काम करती है मिनिस्ट्री। आपको क्या लगता है कि सरकार की प्रायोरिटीज में है इस वक्त?
देखिए, प्रायोरिटीज में कैसे होगा, पिछले बजट एस्टिमेट के मुकाबले कुल मिला के जो पब्लिक एक्सपेंडिचर वो सिर्फ 12% बढ़ा है पिछले बजट एस्टिमेट के मुकाबले, और रिवाइज एस्टिमेट से 16%। लेकिन ऊपर से वित्त मंत्री बताते हैं कि हमें 4.8 का जो फिस्कल डेफिसिट टारगेट मीट करना है। पिछले साल हम जैसे देखे थे कि उन्होंने मतलब जो संपदा है वो इकट्ठा नहीं कर पाया, रिसोर्स मोबिलाइजेशन नहीं हुआ, और उसके चलते कंजम्पशन भी घटा है और पूरा धीमी आई है अर्थव्यवस्था में। और आज भी जो भी मतलब आंकड़े उन्होंने बताए हैं उससे पता चलता है, ट्राइबल सब प्लान जो है आपका, SC/ST सब प्लान जो है, उसमें संविधान निर्धारित जो एलोकेशन होना चाहिए उससे भी कहीं 26,000 करोड़ ट्राइबल सब प्लान के लिए, SC/ST सब प्लान के लिए 50% उससे कम पैसा उन्होंने रखा है। तो ये तो कोई प्राथमिकता वाली सोच जहां तक वित्तीय जो हिसाब किताब है उसमें दिखाई नहीं देता।
Nilotpal, let me go to Mr. Panda. The point raised by Nilotpal is about the allocations, though they look much, but when you compare it with the budget estimates of the last year, it's much less. The revised estimates has gone down, and now it seems as if from the revised estimate there is a increase. But there's also another point which the finance minister made during his budget also. This is the question of absorption. How much many states, many of these schemes, the allocated resources don't get absorbed or don't get spent. Isn't that a problem also? Mr. Panda?
First of all, Nilotpal ji is correct when he says about the allocations, because if you adjust for inflation, with the exception of the education ministry, right, you'll find almost every other allocation has had barely any change.
Right.
So he's right about that. Now, in terms of utilization, in terms of the methodology, other than their sort of very, very belated religious faith in cash transfers, I don't see any administrative reforms that they have brought in over the past few years. Neither do I see it immediately now, which would improve this efficiency.
I
don't think the ground is set for.
जय पांडे जी, अगर हम राजनीति को देखने की कोशिश करें, आपने कहा है कि अगर हम महंगाई के हिसाब से भी लगा लें तो कमोबेश वैसा ही नजर आता है। कई लोगों ने यह भी कहा कि एक बैलेंस बजट है, लेकिन आपको लगता था कि वाकई आखिरी साल में यूपीए 2 कोई ऐसा क्रांतिकारी बजट पेश करने जा रही थी? आपको लगता नहीं है कि वाकई राजनीतिक लिहाज से फूक फूक कर कदम रखा गया है?
देखिए, हम सबको मानना पड़ेगा कि इनके बहुत कंस्ट्रेंट्स थे, लेकिन कंस्ट्रेंट्स होते हुए भी कई राज्यों हैं, जैसे कि उड़ीसा है, बिहार है, गुजरात है, जो इकोनॉमिक परफॉर्मेंस केंद्र के हिसाब से बहुत अच्छा देते हैं, और जो हमारे ऊपर भी प्रेशर होता है फॉर पॉपुलिस्ट मेजर्स, और जितना हम अफोर्ड कर सकते हैं वो देकर हम मैनेज करते हैं वो इकोनॉमिक परफॉर्मेंस। लेकिन ये क्या करने के लिए कोशिश कर रहे हैं, एक हाथ से दिखाने चाहते हैं कि ज्यादा एलोकेशन दिए हुए हैं, लेकिन ज्यादातर वो टोकनिज्म है। जैसे कि फूड सिक्योरिटी बिल पर निलोत्पल जी अभी बोल रहे थे, अगर सच्ची में फूड सिक्योरिटी बिल लाना है तो 10,000 करोड़ से कई ज्यादा अमाउंट चाहिए, वो तो नहीं दिए हुए हैं। बट दे डोंट वांट टू फेस दैट रियलिटी, दे डोंट वांट टू से कि हमारा फिस्कल डेफिसिट मैनेज करना है तो हम फूड सिक्योरिटी नहीं लाएंगे। तो दे शुड टॉक स्ट्रेट टू द कंट्री।
तो आपको लगता है कि ये जो कदम है फूड सिक्योरिटी बिल का, ये सरकार की मौजूदा आर्थिक स्थिति को देखते हुए व्यवहारिक नहीं है, प्रैक्टिकल नहीं है?
नहीं, अगर सच्ची फूड सिक्योरिटी बिल लाना चाहिए तो 10,000 करोड़ से बहुत ज्यादा फंडिंग जरूरत होगी, और उसके लिए वो प्रिपेयर्ड नहीं है अभी। तो वो कैंडिड होना चाहिए, ऑनेस्ट होना चाहिए कि हमारे इतना फंड्स नहीं है, लेकिन फूड सिक्योरिटी ला रहे हैं बोल के वो क्रेडिट लेना भी चाहते हैं और फंड्स भी कम देना चाहते हैं।
Nilothpal, let Biraj say. He wants to intervene.
Actually, I want to add to the point that Nilothpal ji made.
Yes.
And I disagree with Mr. Jay Panda that in education there has been a real increase. Because if you take, for instance, the midday meal scheme, now the budget has been increased to 13,215 crores from the existing 11,500 crores. But the revised estimate of 11,500 crores was arrived at after arm twisting the ministry to actually cut their budget. Every social sector ministry has been arm twisted by finance in the last 2 quarters to cut, because government had clearly said that they need to save 100,000 crores.
Yes,
now, if you look, but on the other hand, they have added 3 new programs to the midday meal scheme, which required a budget of at least 19,000 crore by the ministry's own estimates, and that requirement is going to be unmet. You will therefore, because you have increased it while in effective terms, if you adjust for inflation, reduced it by 10%, what you're going to have is the extension of the midday meal to private schools in SC, ST and minority districts is not going to happen. Extension to 25% of the RTE children in private schools, 25% economically weaker section children who are admitted in private school is not going to happen. Nor is there going to be an extension into pre-primary schools instead of the Anganwadi program. So
Nilothpal, yes. Nilothpal?
No, I am very clear. You see, unless you change the main direction of your paradigm, you are not prepared to enhance your tax revenues, your resource mobilization from those sections who are doing well, that in spite of a drop in the growth rate, in spite of the drop in production, you see 50 top corporates of this country, they have had a profit growth of 12.5%, 50 top corporates in the last quarter.
Nilothpal,
and you are saying that therefore...
Nilothpal, we will come to that a little later. Yes, Chetan.
I think we are overemphasizing the allocation part. Right. It's not just the allocation. Look at what is being implemented and look at the absorption.
Outcome.
The outcome and the thing that's being implemented, is it actually reaching the people it needs to reach?
Exactly.
That's one thing. Secondly, Jay pointed out very correctly about irrigation. I'd like to draw your attention towards logistics and distribution. 30% of the food grain in this country is lost because of logistics and distribution. I mean, if you're not going to invest into that, I still claim that we have enough food to be going around the system, to be able to go over and above the food security bill. These are just book entries. It's not the system.
प्रोफेसर चक्रवर्ती, जिस तरह से भी जिक्र हो रहा है कि हम एलोकेशन पे ज्यादा ध्यान दे रहे हैं, किस तरह से स्कीम को इम्प्लीमेंट किया जाएगा उस पर नहीं दे रहे, और साफ तौर पर अगर फूड सिक्योरिटी बिल का हम बात करें तो गरीबी को लेकर, कौन गरीब है इस देश में, इसको लेकर भी 5 अलग-अलग तरह की डेफिनेशंस हैं.
No, I think it is very important to understand that unless we allocate, we will not be able to build capacity to spend. So these are right-based approach towards expenditure. Now, if we say that there is no absorption, so I'll be allocating less. So we are not going to solve the problem. So there are states where the allocation has been low in the past, but this has increased. And another thing, when we talk about allocation, it is not only because you have allocated more, they have not been able to spend. This is also the issue of one-size-fits-all approach. Now, if you talk about SSA, you fix the scheme. Now take a state like Kerala, which has already achieved 100% literacy. Right. How would it absorb money? Exactly. So I think it is very important that we innovate schemes where absorption becomes easier. So you cannot blame the states or the panchayats that I give you money you cannot spend. It has a lot to do with it has to be designed in such a manner that it helps facilitate spending.
Okay.
जी हाँ, फिलहाल हम चर्चा को आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं और कई महत्वपूर्ण मुद्दों पर हम बातचीत कर रहे हैं. एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर में खासकर 22% का इजाफा हुआ है. फूड सिक्योरिटी बिल को 10,000 करोड़ रुपए दिए गए हैं फूड सिक्योरिटी को, और ये माना जा रहा है कि सरकार की इससे मंशा जाहिर होती है कि आने वाले दिनों में वो लेकर आएगी इसको सामने. और साथ ही 80,000 करोड़ जो है वो रूरल डेवलपमेंट मिनिस्ट्री को भी. निलोत्पल जी इस वक्त हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं. निलोत्पल जी, ये बताइए कि जिस तरह से जो यूपीए 1 थी, उसने जिन स्कीमों के तहत माना जाता है कि जो स्कीमें उसकी बुनियाद में रही, जिसकी वजह से यूपीए 2 बन सका, उन स्कीमों के तहत अगर फूड सिक्योरिटी बिल की हम बात करें, आपको लगता है कि ये चीज चुनाव में फायदा दे सकती है? जो मंशा है सरकार की, जिस खास सेगमेंट को वो टारगेट करने की कोशिश कर रही है.
देखिए, यूपीए 1 के 4 साल में जो काम हम करा पाए थे उस समय जब तक हम लोग थे, और उस समय एक न्यूनतम साझा कार्यक्रम भी थी, तो उसका एक एहसास हुआ था लोगों के मन में, और खास करके रेगा का एक इम्पैक्ट था. लेकिन अगर आप पिछले 2 साल देखें, ये जो पब्लिक एक्सपेंडिचर, ये इसमें घाटा आया है, और सब कुछ के ऊपर लोगों के दिमाग में छाया हुआ है जिस तरह से महंगाई का मार उसको पड़ रहा है. आज देश के अंदर 94% लोग असंगठित क्षेत्र में काम करते हैं. उसका सामाजिक सुरक्षा नाम के कोई चीज नहीं है, और वो शब्द को उच्चारण भी नहीं किया है वित्त मंत्री अपने बजट में. अगर उन्होंने कोई एक नेशनल सोशल सिक्योरिटी एक लेजिस्लेशन के बारे में बातचीत करते, उसके लिए फंड बनाते, एक दिशा प्रदान की जाती, तब उसका एक विश्वसनीयता होता है. नहीं तो ये सब मतलब वो जो हम बोलते हैं ना, झूठ महाझूठ और वो आंकड़ा, वो ही वाली बात हुई है. इसका कोई मतलब नहीं है. और जो बातें बताई जा रही है सेंट्रली स्पॉन्सर्ड स्कीम का, सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है इसके अंदर कोई लचीलापन नहीं है. आप मार्च महीने के तीसरे हफ्ता में आप पैसा भेज के आप स्टेटों को बोलोगे, और उसका भी एक बहुत ही टाइटली स्ट्रक्चर्ड गाइडलाइंस होगा कि आप पैसा खर्चा करोगे, तो कौन खर्चा करेगा? तो बोलने के लिए सरकार बोल देगा हम तो पैसा दिया था, लेकिन उसका खर्चा नहीं हुआ, और उसके आधार पे आने वाले साल में हम और भी एलोकेशन घटा देंगे. तो इसमें तो सरकार का एक राजनीतिक इच्छा शक्ति जो होना चाहिए, जो गरीबों के लिए, आम आदमी के लिए कुछ काम करने का, ये दिखाई नहीं देता. इसलिए मैं बार बार बोलूंगा कि पब्लिक एक्सपेंडिचर कट करके, सब्सिडी कट करके, और मतलब बड़े लोगों से टैक्स एकजुट करने का कोई प्रयास ना करके, सरकार का जो रुझान है, सरकार का जो दृष्टिकोण है, ये साफ हो गया. ये
ओके निलोत्पल, थैंक यू, थैंक्स फॉर जॉइनिंग अस. Biraj, one of the things which is there in this budget, which the finance minister spoke about, is about the agriculture credit. He speaks about 7 lakh crores having been disbursed in the 11th plan, and he's talking of bigger things in the 12th plan. And he also spoke about a 4% interest for those people who pay in time. Isn't this a positive thing as far as agriculture?
No, absolutely. Agricultural credit is a positive step. There's no doubt about it. But Girish, we need to reflect, where is this agriculture credit going to? In Maharashtra, for instance,
Okay, Biraj.
Up till last year,
Biraj,
50%.
Sorry, Biraj. We have